We are going to cover the 10 most frequently replaced auto parts. Here's a list of the top most frequently replaced automotive parts. These are mainly regular maintenance parts. Number 1 is the engine oil filter. No matter what type or model of vehicle you own, the part you'll need to replace the most is the oil filter. The lubrication system is vital to the proper operation of any internal combustion engine. You'll need to get the engine oil and oil filter replaced according to your car manufacturer's recommendations. Number 2 is the engine air filter. The engine air filter will also need to be replaced on a regular basis according to your car manufacturer's recommendations. Driving regularly on unpaved or gravel roads will greatly shorten the lifespan of your air filter. Failing to replace a dirty air filter will minimize the airflow to the engine and will reduce your vehicle's fuel efficiency. Air filters are usually pretty inexpensive, so don't hesitate to replace it when needed. Number 3 is the engine drive belts. Since the alternator, water pump, oil pump, power steering. Unless your car is equipped with an electric power steering system, AC compressor are all powered by the drive belt, your vehicle won't go that far without a drive belt in good working condition. Even though drive belts are manufactured using a rubber type specifically made to withstand the biggest temperature gaps possible, the rubber will end up drying out and will start to crack with time. When the cracks are big enough, the belt will loosen up and could slip on the pulleys, producing a squealing sound. When it happens, failing to replace it in time could lead to the belt tearing up and ultimately bringing the car to a halt. Without a drive belt, the alternator cannot do its job anymore and the car will stop as soon as the battery is drained from its power. Belts should be inspected at every oil change and replaced as soon as surface glazing or cracks are detected. Number 4 is the cabin filter. Cabin filters, also called pollen filters, are used to clean the air entering the cabin from contaminants like pollen and dust. A clogged cabin filter will greatly reduce the efficiency of your climate control system. There's no fixed service interval for this part since it depends on the climate you live in, the kind of roads you travel onto and the mileage you drive every year. Most cabin filters are located behind the glove box and are easy to replace. Simply unhook the glove box, remove the cabin filter cover and pull out the filter. Number 5 is brake pads and rotors. Right after oil changes and routine maintenance work, brake pads and rotors replacement are the most common job mechanics must perform daily. Brakes are used every time you drive your car, so they'll need to be replaced from time to time. When you step on the brake pedal, the brake pads are pressed onto the rotors and slow down the car. The rubbing of both components on each other will lead them to wear out and need to be replaced. Furthermore, in the case of an emergency brake situation, the rotor's temperature will suddenly rise and could cause the rotors to warp. Warped disc brakes may cause the brake pedal to vibrate and/or steering wheel to shake when applying the brakes, and will cause premature wear of the brake pads. To ensure your brakes last as often as possible, make sure to have your brake system checked and serviced as needed yearly. Number 6 is wheel speed sensors. Whenever an ABS warning light is popping up in the dashboard, the problem is usually related to wheel speed sensors. These sensors are located on the knuckles, pointing towards the speed sensor rings installed on the drive shafts or the wheel bearings. Because of their location, they are constantly exposed to the outside elements while you drive your car. They get filled with snow and salt in the winter and water and dirt in the summer. Number 7 is stabilizer links. Suspension components are constantly under stress. They have to absorb the shocks coming from all bumps and potholes on the roads. Therefore, it's only natural that these auto parts need to be replaced more often than others. Stabilizer links are, by far, the most common car parts to fail in the suspension system. This may or may not be true depending on the car model you drive. Car manufacturers use different link designs, and some are simply more efficient and reliable than others. Number 8 is ball joints. Ball joints are used to allow your front wheels to move on the vertical axis. Every time your car hits a crack or a small bump on the road, the ball joints are solicited. Ball joints are lubricated from the factory and a rubber seal is used to prevent water and dirt to enter. After a while, the seal will dry out, crack and rust will start to accumulate on the bottom of the ball joint, pushing the grease out. Water will also be able to enter and will wash out the remaining grease. Whenever it happens, the ball joint will become loose in the socket and a knocking sound will be heard every time that wheel hits a bump, and a squealing sound could be heard when the steering wheel is turned. A loose ball joint can be tested with the wheel raised on a jack, by shaking the wheel up and down. If the wheel has play in it, the ball joint is faulty, and it will need to be replaced. Be aware that failing to replace a loose ball joint could lead to more expensive repairs and even a car crash. Number 9 is control arm bushings. These bushings are located at the other end of the control arms holding the ball joints. They typically don't include rotating joints like ball joints do and instead use polyurethane bushings to allow the arms to go up and down. As with any other rubber components, they tend to dry out and crack with time. In most cases, when a control arm bushing is faulty, you should be able to notice the inside sleeve part sliding out of the bushing. When it happens, a low thump or metal noise will be heard when driving over potholes. Depending on the car model, control arm bushing may be expensive to replace. Number 10 is shock absorbers. Shock absorbers, also called suspension struts, are a little bit different. Unlike other suspension components mentioned before, they rarely need to be replaced because of water causing rust and creating a play inside of it. Instead, struts usually need to be replaced because they are leaking. The oil contained inside shock absorbers is used to absorb the unevenness of the road. When the seals dry out, the oil will start to leak around the shock's rod and the oil level will gradually lower until the strut has no dampening effect anymore. Once the fluid level inside the shock reaches a certain level, you should easily notice how the car starts to bounce an excessive amount of time after each bump on the road. Click the link below to check pricing on eBay Motors for huge savings.